Now we get started. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Renske Martijnse from Forum Verium Helsinki. I'm here with Juha Tretjakov from the Finnish Cybersecurity Institute.
Yes, center.
Center. Well, what did I want to say? I want to say thanks for joining to this fourth webinar of the Fabulous Academy. Fourth out of 6. We've had already 3 webinars which will be posted on the Forum Verium YouTube channel and the Metropolia YouTube channel very soon. As I said, I work for Forum Verium, the innovation company of the city of Helsinki. I coordinate the European Fabulous project, and this webinar is part of that. The Fabulous Academy is part of the Fabulous project. So you can find more information on Fabulous via the website, via fabulous.eu. And maybe for now, it's enough to mention that this is a 3-year pre-commercial procurement project in which we work with companies who are conducting R&D to develop systems that can operate fleets of self-driving shuttle buses in urban environments. We do this with 6 procuring partners and an additional 20 procuring authorities that are kind of follow our cities. And these authorities and cities and regions, they increasingly have to deal with these kind of mobility innovations, and employees maybe do not always have the knowledge that they need if they would want to implement a city or carry out a procurement. You don't need to know all the details, but you need to have some basic level of knowledge. And that's why we started this academy to kind of increase the knowledge level, to bridge this knowledge gap, so to say. And we've had topics like legal aspects and charging and sensor fusion last time. Next month in October we'll have the topic of wireless communication, but today is all about cybersecurity.
Yes.
And threat mitigation. So this is of course an open webinar. If you're not working at a procuring organization, you're also more than welcome. But yeah, let's get to today's topic. Warmly welcome to Juha for being here today. He'll be speaking, as I said, about cyber threats,
yes,
threat mitigation in the field of automated mobility particularly. Well, as the Fabulous Academy webinars, they don't assume much prior knowledge, so I've asked you to really start with the basics, basically. Before I give you the floor, I wanted to say to the people who are listening that afterwards there's time to ask questions, or you can ask them through the comment section of GoToMeeting. And this webinar will be made available afterwards as well for viewing, and please stay muted during the presentation. So Juha has about 45 minutes now.
Very good.
And then I will be over there, and I wish you good luck. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, hello to everybody. I cannot see you back there, but I guess you are there listening and seeing everything I would like to present you. So the next 45 minutes I'm going to talk to you about some cybersecurity issues in mobile traffic. First, a few words about me and my organization. I'm working at the National Cybersecurity Center of Finland, which is a part of a Traficom agency. The Traficom agency is quite a young agency in Finland. It formed in the beginning of this year when the traffic safety agency and the communication agency combined together. So Trafi is for traffic and Com is for communication. This is our target picture. I hope you can see the picture. That's visualization of the all the possibilities which are targeted to the year 2030. This is the Finnish Transport Growth Program target picture. It includes some virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and augmented reality in those vehicles and devices on the road. This is some utopia. I hope it will someday be reality. Today's topics are mostly, I start with the basics, what is safety and what is security, and how they differ and how they react with others. Some regulations is needed, and I talk shortly about safety regulations in traffic, and also the security regulations, which are a very young thing. I talk something about threat models, threat mitigation, some legislation, cooperation, and information sharing, which is very essential part of security models. Well, at first, a few words about the National Cybersecurity Center. Many countries have similar organizations that are called cybersecurity centers, but the meaning is quite ambiguous, so it's good to briefly go through which functions operate within the National Cybersecurity Center in Finland. We started with CERT functions. CERT comes from words Computer Emergency Response Team. It is a brand that has existed long before Cybersecurity Center of Finland, and that really covers the day-to-day operations of the Cybersecurity Center. This involves incident response, raising public awareness on cybersecurity issues, preparing exercises, maintaining the situational awareness, and operating our sensor systems, which is called Havaro, and exchanging operational information through ISAC groups. I will talk shortly about those. And this also involves developing our own tools and ICT systems to censor cyber threats. NCSC is also responsible for security assessments, accreditation and guidance, and a product evaluation, which is part of the NCSA, National Communications Security Authority in Finland. And Galileo Public Regulated Services is also maintained in our office. The satellite location services in Europe. The Galileo system is still in a pilot phase and will be operational after some years from now. But it's in use at the moment. At this moment, Finland has ranked third in a comparison between countries for lowest malware encounters. And why is that? I guess our approach has been successful, and to give some weight to our views, we want to give you a couple of examples how Finland is doing when compared to other countries. And in the global cyber threat landscape, Finland is mostly harmless, and I guess that's a good goal. Yeah. What is behind our success? Is it pure luck, or is it something smarter? We are a regulator, but we are trying very hard to actually provide service, not deny and forbid things. Our roots in computer emergency response is very strong, and our service is essential in that function. It has rub off everything we do. We help, and with people who trust us, the people is being helped. We seldom have any unnecessary legal actions. Yes. Cooperation is one key point in our everyday functions. We are constantly in touch with our partners in Finland and also internationally. We share knowledge, and we get some their knowledge in respond. And without the knowledge which we share, we actually could not help each other to maintain our position in the field of cybersecurity. We have some collaboration networks in Finland that's called ISACs. It's actually in the different fields working groups which share information between the ISAC group. For example, we have several sector-specific information sharing groups, which one of those groups is working in logistics and transport. And this is our L-ISAC group, which includes aviation, maritime security, and railroad, and also the highway road transport. Yes. I go very quickly these presentation slides of our own agency, so we will get to the point more quickly. One of our products we maintain daily and monthly is the cyber weather, which sums up our situation right now. And this is the overall picture what is happening in cybersecurity right now, both in Finland and in the other parts of the world. And we divide this cyber weather forecast to 6 different fields, which are network, espionage, malwares, data breaches, frauds, and IoT. And the topic we will discuss today will mostly be in the IoT field, because those cars and vehicles are some kind of IoT devices. They are connected to the network, and they communicate with each other and with back systems and infrastructure. So we can say the cars on the roads, they are IoT devices. But shortly, right now, during the last month and the ongoing summer, we have had only a few major flaws in network, which one of the biggest was the outbreak of Galileo, a satellite system. It took about 1 week to make the Galileo system back online after it was having some difficulties. And we also have been reported about some DDoS attacks. That DDoS stands for Distributed Denial of Service attack. And we saw a few of them a couple of weeks ago. They were targeted against Finnish public infrastructure. And during last years, the consequences have been much more serious than today. Nowadays, we know how to mitigate those DDoS attacks better than earlier. And some espionage news are there for seeing. I don't go not so deeply in those espionage news, so we can get to the point more easily and quickly. Some malware and vulnerabilities are reported last month about Apple system and VxWorks IoT system. This VxWorks is a system which is used very widely in different IoT systems. But it's rarely reported as such, and when we get those reports about some vulnerabilities, then it implicates that the problem is wider than we see, because we see only a small part of the incident itself. And then the one of the more visible problem was the Finnish cities like Lahti and Kokemäki and Pori, which were reported suffering some data breaches and malware attacks. last month and some month earlier also in Lahti. Summer has also been the season of increased phishing and frauds. That phishing usually means scams. Those a criminal send emails which are scams, and they claim to be somebody else, usually a director of the company, and those scamming email demand some money, and they try to lure other people in the company to make some unauthorized money transfers, and sometimes they succeed in those scams and usually not. But these kinds of scamming is increasing during the holiday time, because then people are usually not so careful about those. And those IoT and automation topics I will discuss further a bit more. Yes. Some words about those data breaches in Finnish cities. They are thought to be part of big game hunting in the world. Big game hunting has been started earlier this year to rise in the United States and in Europe also. It's usually going on with data breach at first, and then the criminal has their foot in the company, and they launch some ransomware application in the company network, and after that they demand ransom money. And some big targets have been in the news lately, last month and some months before that. They have been, for example, Norwegian company Norsk Hydro. I guess you have seen about that. And the aluminium company Norsk Hydro had some thousands of millions euros lost because of those attacks. This phenomenon is not unfamiliar in Finland also. The Kokemäki incident last month was one example how it can affect in Finnish city. The Lahti and Pori incidents were not as severe as the Kokemäki incident, because in Kokemäki the criminals got into the net so deep that they could encrypt all the machines and services in the network. So after the incident, the Kokemäki city had to rebuild the whole systems from scratch. And it was slow, and it was expensive. In Lahti earlier this year in June, the situation was not as bad as in Kokemäki, but the Lahti network is bigger and wider, and the amount of the machines involved was bigger. And these are just examples what criminals can do if they get into your own system. And for example, the data breach can go from scanning targets. At first, criminals scan all the network in the world, and if they find some system which is not secured as good as it could be, then they will break in. And after breaking in, they will spread to the network. And when they have spread to all systems they will secure the perimeter in the network. And after that, when they have their own foot in every system, they will cash out the ransomware ransoms. And in a Kokemäki case, they got the whole chain from beginning to the end. And Kokemäki, the people had to rebuild the system from scratch. This is an example of what can happen if you don't take care of your whole cybersecurity. These are some essential guidelines to the management. This concerns the cities, government, and any companies. So this is not the case only in Lahti or Pori or Kokemäki. It could be your company also. So plan ahead, make a recovery plan. What would happen if your system would be encrypted from head to heels? How could you rebuild it from scratch? And exercise is also very important. If you, even if you have a backup system, you need to exercise how to operate the backup process. And when you see that you are breached, we would be also thankful if you will alert the National Cybersecurity Center. Then our experts will help you. So let's go to the point. Safety or security. In Finnish language, it's the same word, turvallisuus. Safety can be, turvallisuus can be both things, safety and security. I guess some of you are familiar with Isaac Asimov's laws of robotics. They were written in early 40s, actually it was 1942, Isaac Asimov wrote his laws, which the first law was a robot may not injure a human being. And the first law of robotics is clearly safety. So, if the device has been designed safe, after that it can be operated safely and it can be used safely. It will do no harm to the user. But if then the operating system is broken and some hacker will alter the device, the safety is also lost after that. So if we would like to design safe system, we also have to design a secure system. So we cannot have safety without security. Together they will guarantee your safety and security. The National Cybersecurity Center is launching this year tietoturvamerkki, which is some kind of security a certificate for IoT devices. This also can be implemented for smart vehicles. Why not? So why certify your device? We hope it will improve network security overall, and we hope it will protect customers and motivate vendors to implement safe devices. And also it will spread the knowledge that it should be good to design your equipment safely. Some background and guidelines are based on European and international legislation. The Finnish market is too small to uphold its own regulation, which would be different from European regulation. We don't want to have our own market. We would like to be part of the European and international market. And that's the reason we should use the same standards and same principles as in everybody else in Europe. The key problem in IoT consumer nowadays is the lack of support. If you go to a store and you will buy, let's say, a router or a smart device, smart cooker, or anything else which is connected to network, you don't know the moment you buy it, can it be updated at all? If you buy some cheap device for one-time use, then it might be it can't be updated at all. And the other question is if it will have some vulnerability. Is it possible to get the device patched after it has some flaws? And how to operate it safe and secure? How long the updates will continue? And how to alert if it has some problems in the machine? Who is the contact to take if you find some problems in the device? Well, if you are in a position to design your own device, let it be some smart vehicle. There are some principles to use. You are not supposed to see those topics there, but you should go to the network site ovasp.org. There are implemented some key points, top 10 most essential things to implement when you design your own device. These topics are originally designed for network applications, but OWASP program also covers any other devices like IoT devices or big systems and small systems and some infrastructure design and different aspects. So the OWASP principle is a good place to start your security design. And it can also be used to implement vehicles who communicate in the road. If your vehicle will communicate with other vehicles, other services, other infrastructure devices and subsystems, you can use it existing mobile networks and short distance radio systems. But also make sure when you build that communication that the communication is secured where it needed to be secured. You can make a risk analysis about the systems you use and make it secure in those places which need to be made secure. One question about the data gathering in those autonomous systems will be who owns the data after the automotive system has it gathered. Is it the user, is it the company, or is it somebody else? And how to trust that data which is gathered. If it's open data, then somebody else can design his own system to provide open data, but is that data also as reliable as some other data in the same system? Those are questions which are not yet answered properly, but they are indeed worth of thinking. Well, usual threats to a networked device, let it be a car or elevator or a train or anything else. Try to avoid hard-coded passwords. If you hard-code passwords inside the system, those weak passwords usually can be guessed. Or if they are not guessed, they are documented somewhere, and the document can leak. So if the password is hard-coded and somebody gets to know the password, you cannot change it anymore. So the security is lost after that. So avoid hard-coded passwords, avoid backdoors in your system, because even if you have meant the backdoor to be used only by authorized users, the backdoor can be usually breached also. So avoid unnecessary open services, avoid unsafe interfaces, avoid unsafe update processes. Also, if you use libraries and ready components, make sure that you use the latest version of the library and component, because software libraries also are very a common way to find flaws and holes to the system. Also, if you store any personal data, it has to be in a secure way. And if you transfer any personal data, the communication of that data must also be in a secure way. Don't trust anything, just make it sure. So, I guess we have about 15 minutes left. Yeah. You can find some more information about this topic. For example, for this guidebook, secure development towards approval. This is published this year in Traficom, and it has some good points for every system developer. And also the OWASP top 10 I mentioned earlier is a very good basic guide start your designs. And then also in Finnish language, the katakri and pitukri, which are guidelines for designing secure systems. And pitukri is the new guideline for designing cloud services. And also the European standards like ETSI, which is designed for cyber security for a consumer Internet of Things devices. This ETSI technical specification can be very useful. So if you have any questions about any topic, I would be glad to answer.
Thanks very much, Juha. For some reason, I don't have the comment box here below, but I would suggest if anyone has a question, they just open their mic and ask you straight away. Maybe I could start with a short question, because you mentioned the European Cybersecurity Act that got into force recently this spring, and establishing this kind of European certification framework. So in Finland, that has been now implemented. Is that similar for other countries around Europe? I suppose that each country is expected to establish this kind of certification system.
Yes, it is. In most European countries, the same situation.
Yeah.
And the topic is very young, and work has just started, so we have much to do with it.
And is there do you foresee that it will be mandatory for companies or cities or in general organizations to have this kind of certification if they want to operate, for example, public transport services?
In some time span, maybe. Let's make some example about road safety. Take, for example, the safety belts. Safety belts were introduced in 1950s, I think, and they were mandatory in 1970s sometime, and after that the traffic deaths have been on the
dropping.
Yes, dropping. And it's just one example of a regulation. After you make some regulations of cyber security, maybe you can also drop those incidents.
Yeah. And I also read somewhere that this certification is also partly due to increase. They hope that it will increase the kind of user acceptance. That kind of user acceptance is critical to the success of automated vehicles, and that if there would be this EU-wide certification, that will increase the trust of citizens. Is that so? Well, hopefully it will develop on relatively short notice. The cybersecurity, the cyber attacks that you mentioned, for example, in Finnish cities, have you ever heard of any instances where it would have affected a traffic management center or, well, I don't know. I can imagine that also maybe ransomware can be used for fleet management purposes. That I have your buses hostage, and
there have been, for example, in the railroads there are some systems which are mandatory before any train can leave. The train conductor must use that system, and if the system is down, the train cannot leave. So we have had some incidents in Finland also, well, when the train is delayed because of the system is down. And for example, in Denmark, there were last year some cyber attacks against similar systems. So if they use DDoS attacks against those systems, then the traffic is down.
Yeah, so that's a big risk for cities.
It is.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Yes. So it's a good tip that you mentioned. What was it called again? The owasp.org. You
Sure.
said that's a good place to start your cybersecurity design. So that goes for both for cities and for companies alike.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. Okay, that's a good tip for the audience.
It is a good guide.
I suppose. Is there anyone online who would like to ask a question from Juha? Then please unmute yourself and go ahead. We patiently wait. If not, then okay, I'm just curious to hear from your perspective. Do you think it's just a matter of time when we will hear the first news in the headlines that self-driving bus hacked or like rerouted by cyber criminals?
I'm not in the position to make some guesses, but we have saw some cars hacked already. So if you have a modern car with some digital systems inside, they can be hacked, and they are hacked. So it's no surprise that the same could happen to those buses also.
Yeah. Hence the importance of good
Absolutely.
threat mitigation.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. If there are no questions for the audience, or there is someone who has their mic open, Constantas. But I don't hear anything. I'm sorry, maybe you're trying to ask a question, but we don't hear you. Your microphone settings might not work. Then maybe what we do is, if you have a question, you could maybe send it to me by email, and we'll get it to Juha, and we can get the answer back to you. How's that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can do that.
Thanks for your attention, everyone. So just a reminder again that we have still 2 webinars coming up, one in October, one in November. The next one is on wireless communication technologies for autonomous vehicles. When you receive the documentation of this webinar, we can let you know who the speaker will be, and follow us also on social media, because through our LinkedIn and Facebook accounts and Twitter accounts, we will also update you on the dates, exact date and exact speaker. But for now, I close this session, and warm thanks to you. Okay. Good.
Thank you for everybody.